Good afternoon and welcome to the latest in our series. In fact, the very first of 2022 of our live careers webinars brought to you by the Hertfordshire Opportunities Portal. That's a website that we hope any of you attending schools or colleges in Hertfordshire will become very, very familiar with, because it's a one-stop shop for you to find out about a whole host of different careers and opportunities that may be available for you in your county. So if this isn't something that your school are talking to you about, we hope that, and you can see on your screen there, the website and the social media channels that we've got here, really recommend that you have a look at those. But today's webinar, we are going to be talking about careers in graphic design, and looking at the number of registrations and the number of students that are entering this webinar at the moment. This has been one of the most popular ones that we've done in the nearly 2 years that we've been running these. So first of all, particularly for those of you that are watching this live at the moment, which is just gone 4:30 on a Thursday afternoon, well done. You've come home from school, you've probably got lots of things that you want to be doing, you've been in school, but you've decided the best use of your time is to come in and join this webinar and find out from some real experts in the graphic design industry about the careers that potentially are careers that you guys are going to be wanting to do in the next few years. So whether you're thinking about which subjects you might want to do at GCSE or A level, or whether you need to go to university, or actually what it's actually like a day-to-day in the life of a graphic designer, that's what we're going to find out about today. So yes, well done for watching this. This session is being recorded, so if you can't stay with us for the full, I suspect it probably will be an hour today until about 5:30. This recording will be available, and you'll be able to watch it via our YouTube channel on Hop from tomorrow. When you go onto that site, you'll see that we've got all of the previous webinars that we have recorded are also available on here. So there may be some that are slightly connected that you want to have a look at as well. So I'm thinking we did one on games design not so long ago. We've done one on architecture, even town planning. There will be elements that will cover some of the things that we're doing today as well. So do have a look at that one. If you can't watch all of it, it will be available to watch again tomorrow. Just to reassure you, all of you that are watching this at the moment, we can't see or hear any of you. So you can't enable your microphone or camera, so we can't see or hear any of you, but hopefully you can see and hear us quite clearly. However, you do have the opportunity to interact with us, and having taken the opportunity to watch this webinar, what I really want to encourage you to do as we go through this session is ask questions. So if there's anything that you don't think that we cover, then your opportunity will come in the second half of this webinar to put your questions to our panelists. So the way that you do that, on your dashboard, you should see that there is a tab on there, or a line that says questions. If you click on the questions tab, it will open out a text box. And within that text box, you can type in a question. Now that will come through to me and my admin team. It won't be visible to anybody else. And then I will direct your question to one of our panelists. So be brave. Take this opportunity to find out anything that you want to find out about from our panelists that we cover today. So without any further ado, let me hand over to our panelists who can introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we'll go into the main webinar. So firstly, good afternoon to Anya. Anya, good afternoon. Tell us a little bit more about you, please.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to be here and to share a little bit about my passion for graphic design. So my name is Anya, and I run a small graphic design company called CreateWorks based in Hartford. And we will do anything that needs visual representation. So if you think about where you find graphic design, it's really everywhere. If you walk in the streets, like the street signs, at home, perhaps the design of your wallpaper, and then the obvious ones, magazines, companies, everybody needs a logo. So graphic design really touches so many things, and that is what we do. So it's a real mixed bag. So one day, we might be designing branding in an office, another day we might be doing brochures. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Sure, thank you very much, Anya. Good afternoon, Matthew Curtis, born and bred in Hertfordshire and a student at Highfield School up in Letchworth, I believe, so you're a local lad. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Cool, hi everyone, nice to be here, thanks for having me. My name is Matt Curtis and I'm a graphic designer at the University of Hertfordshire. So within their marketing department, I work in a small team called the studio team, and we look after creative across the entire university. So we look at printed materials, big advertising spaces, I'm not really sure, but we do loads. Like honestly, like just sorry, I'm like there's a lot to cover. So it's things like magazines, publications, so prospectuses, things like that. We do animation sometimes to convey information across to students. So yeah, it's a mixed bag of stuff. But yeah.
Sure, and so Matt, just to jump in there as well, you work for the University of Hertfordshire now, but of course you were a student there, didn't you? That's where you took your degree in graphic design.
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that. Yeah, sorry, a bit nervous. Never done anything like this before, so yeah, a bit all over the place. Yeah, so I was a student at North Hertfordshire College, which is in Hitchin, and then from there I went on to study at the University of Hertfordshire and managed to bag a job with them once I graduated. And in between that, I was also a graphic design tutor at North Hertfordshire College. So I've kind of gone studied at North Herts and then the university, and then got a job at North Herts and then the university. So yeah.
Sure. So look, we will cover degrees in graphic design. So Matt has fairly recently gone through that 3-year undergraduate degree program. So if any of you are thinking about going to university and you want some tips or some advice on which courses to pick or what does a 3-year undergraduate program look like, Matt is very much your man to ask those questions too. Now, good afternoon to another, well, Letchworth-based panelist today. So good afternoon, Martin Barrett.
Hi everyone. Yeah, again, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today and to be asked to give my insights to you guys. So yeah, I'll give a bit of history to myself. So I'm currently the managing director of a company called Sonovision in Letchworth. Nothing to do with audio or video or visual stuff. So it's predominantly a company that produces technical documentation. Could be for an aircraft. It could be something that you would buy at Sainsbury's or Argos and you get it out of the box and you never read it and it goes in the drawer. But actually what we have is an integrated design studio. So my background originally for a long time ago was I was a technical illustrator and graphic designer. Years ago when the work was being done on drawing boards. Then I went through the transition of moving to digital and being PC based, working with Adobe and all the different softwares, and then I came into Sonovision and worked through the company as a graphic designer, senior designer, became the studio manager, and I ran the design studio for 10 years before I eventually became managing director of Sonovision 5 years ago. So my passion has always been graphic design. I love it. Everything is different. It can be anything from an exhibition, it can be brochures, leaflets, logo design, it can be videos, animation, motion graphics. I'm still turning my hand to it now when our studio are really busy and they say, I need help. And I've just been producing videos that are out there on LinkedIn at the moment. So yeah, I love it, and I still like to keep my hand in the software, and I've never lost that passion for it. So if you're choosing a career in graphic design, I would thoroughly recommend it.
Thank you. That's a really great endorsement for the career in the industry. So what you're getting, so particularly with Martin, is you're going to hear from a recruiter. So I know that Martin has been recruiting graphic designers, I think as recently as today. So if
Yes.
this is something you want to go into, I guess whether you go to university or not, at some point you are going to be sat across the table or sat in front of a screen with Martin, who will be thinking about whether you are the sort of person that he wants to bring into his company and to employ. And potentially Andrew will also be that boat as well, because I know you're looking to grow your business as well. So look, first sort of set of questions just to set the scene a little bit. I really want to know what sort of the day-to-day looks like for you guys. So I think you've described what a graphic designer is, but I mean, quite literally, and you tell me, what have you been working on today?
All right, so graphic design is a really mixed bag. So like Martin was touching on, there's many different kind of like lanes in graphic design. There's video, there's animation, there's graphic design for social media and digital, there's print. And so, it's a really mixed bag. It's all kinds of things. So this week I was working on a few things. So one is for a local business in Ware. So this is just like a printed publication. They sent it out to their customers, and it's a real nice kind of like printed leaflet. And then something completely different. So there's an interior designer who has a wallpaper that looks like this. I'm currently designing this pattern to go onto cushions in a way that it fits together. So the whole design butts together. So something completely different. And last year I was doing something really fun. I was working with a speaker coach in a business in Broxbourne, and I did his book cover. So this is his book that came out last year. And I did the cover and all the graphics that are in the book. So it's a completely mixed bag. And then another project I would like to share is a office branding project. So last week, one of my bigger jobs got installed. I did 18 graphics for a big office up in London in Westminster. And yeah, hopefully one day I can show you guys in person a presentation what that looks like. But you can see every day is different. Graphic design is a super versatile career. Every day is a challenge, and every day is just really, really interesting. And you're creating something from nothing, which is what I really love.
For sure. Thank you. Now, Anya, all your work is working for clients, so doing projects for clients, and they will presumably give you some form of brief about what you're doing. Matt, by contrast, you're part of the University of Hertfordshire's in-house team, so you are creating pieces of work for your own internal purposes. So you mentioned them earlier, but just summarise them again. What are the different sorts of projects that you are directly involved in at the moment?
So like Anya said, like it's a really mixed bag. So every day is different. So for example, this week I've been working primarily with After Effects and motion graphics and animation. The brief I'm currently working on at the moment is we're trying to offer more security with our student logins. So we're adding a second wall of security, which means when you log in online, you also have to log in on your phone. So I've been animating a video that will go out to just step-by-step talk through how you're supposed to do that and make it, really easy for students to understand and access. But in the past as well, it is really mixed. So I could be like I said, animating today, but I've in the past worked on projects where we've been given a brief and we want to put huge vinyls and big graphics up around the campus, and we're talking like on the sides of buildings, and working on that and trying to create engaging content which you're going to walk past and look at and go wow, and really stands out and makes the campus look cool, essentially. Really captures students when they're walking down, makes them kind of proud to be on campus and part of our university. Other jobs, open days are a big one for us. So again, more large scale print, which goes on the side of buildings, messaging and things like that. Directional signage, making sure that everyone knows where they're going on the day, as well as, like publications. So like a guidebook. So they get there on the day and they open it and they've got everything they need to know about the university. So it's my job to design all of that and make sure that it all makes sense and it all ties up and no one's going to get confused.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, good summary. Martin, look, from your experience within graphic design, most of the jobs that graphic designers have, I mean, do they tend to be working for an agency where you're working on contracts with clients, or are you likely to be working for a particular company who have a graphic design team, such as Matt?
It could be. It varies. So we normally work with our clients have marketing communication teams within their own business, and sometimes they will have their own in-house designers, but more often than not they don't have the capacity to work on what needs to be produced, so they look at outsourcing. So that's where they come to us to work on the projects, and we work with a number of clients locally and in London, where we will just produce. Again, you never know what's coming in from one day to the next. It will be a video, it will be we're doing interactive apps, we've got 3D animation, We're now working in virtual reality with the Farnborough College of Technology to produce some training for working with the Cessna aircraft. So you just don't know what's going to come from the client. So what's good about the what you're asked to do is there's so many different skill sets required. It could be the graphic designers will create the user interface that's actually going to be used within the virtual reality. So yes, you may not get involved in the development of the virtual reality, but you do have input in there to actually make sure what the user is going to see at the end is actually fantastic, and has that interactivity that you're looking for. So yeah, it could be varied. It could be anything. We have a range of clients. Could be councils through to global corporates and so on. So, but predominantly we work with sort of our customers' in-house teams.
Okay. Anya, I mean, just tell me, how much of your day is spent? I mean, you work for yourself, that you're self-employed. How much of your day is spent in front of a computer screen? How much of your time is out spending actually talking to clients? Give me sort of the breakdown of what your working environment looks like.
Yeah, so most of it is in front of my computer screen, designing things. So my client interaction, I guess, is about 15% of my time, because really what happens is I will take a brief, I will go away, I will design, and then we will have a design review and we might make changes. And that's usually how it happens. But it is really interesting, because a lot of time at the start goes into understanding what the client would like to achieve, what they would like to communicate. So at the start, there really is a lot of communication, and to really get into the mindset of being able to deliver what the client has in mind. And then that is followed by probably a few days of creative process, of doing some first hand sketches, doing some first design ideas, followed by letting that settle a little bit to then get final ideas onto the software and get a proposal together for the client.
Sure. And look, I was going to ask you what the challenges are within this industry, and I'm guessing by nature that graphic designers are naturally quite creative people, but how do you deal with it? So if your client's got a very specific brief, and then you perhaps got your own ideas of how you might do things slightly differently, can that be a challenge sometimes when your client's very adamant they want to do something in a particular way? Martin, let me ask you that question, because you obviously deal with lots of...
I'm not yeah, because that is one of the biggest challenges, is working with the clients, because design is so subjective. What you think is good, you deliver to your client, may not actually be what they had in their head. So it is, as Anya's quite right, is you need to get that information out of their head, and that's part of the job, really. I think you really need to understand what's required, and then try and transpose that into paper, and and actually sketch up what they're looking for. Normally what we would do is you design probably 5 different designs around the same piece, and actually you end up whittling it down and then supplying the best one, and then hopefully push the best one right in front of the client and make that one shine. But more often than not, the customer may go with something that is not your favorite, and then you'll try and incorporate bits of your design in together with the one they've chosen. So it's again, it's so open, but it's yeah, that is one of the most challenging bits, is actually working with the clients. But it's rewarding when you do have that final design and it's out there.
Yeah. And then Matt, how does that translate for you? So you're part of that in-house team at University of Hertfordshire, and you'll have bosses and team leaders who have got a certain idea for how things are going to go. How much license do you have to create your own bespoke things, or how much do you have to follow a brief?
So it's very much the same as Anya and Martin said. So when a brief comes in, we don't just jump into it. You kind of take a step back, read it, understand it, maybe go and look at things that might influence your ideas for this. But because I work for a university, there's there's a bit of a balance. So because we're already branded and we already have our logos and our typeface and colors, we kind of have to kind of sit within that area. So we can be really creative, but essentially there are sometimes like we can't, we have to stay within the brand guidelines. But there are opportunities and briefs that come through, and it allows us to be really free and kind of, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily meet the brand the entire time. In terms of like challenges and stuff as well, like it's this, again, I'd echo what Anya and Martin said. Like sometimes you can, you know, you might throw yourself into a project and come up with 3 design solutions and be like, these are great, I'm really happy with these. And then, you know, you get in front of a client and you really have to sell that idea and you have to really win them over. And sometimes, you know, you might have a personal preference and you might be, you know, really opting for option 1, and they might say, we're more option 2. So you kind of have to respect that. But yeah, it's a lot of communication, a lot of making sure you understand the brief. But what's great about it is it's incredibly collaborative. So you're never just working on your own. You're always working with people. There's always like a bit of a team effort, and you bounce off each other. So you might have an idea, and then, you know, I work with 2 other designers, and, you know, we bounce off each other really well, and we get really excited and throw ourselves into our work. So yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay, right. I want to move the conversation on. I suspect this will be the topic that most of you watching this will be most interested in at the moment. And these are the entry routes into becoming a graphic designer. So, I mean, first of all, Matt, because you were most recently out of school, can you tell us which GCSEs did you do? And then what did you do after GCSEs? What was your route into doing the graphic design course at university?
Cool. So my GCSEs, I did music, art, product design, and business, and that was when I was at school. But then I was with art. I was it wasn't really what let's rephrase that. I decided I want to throw myself just at one of these subjects essentially. So I dropped out of 6th form purely to devote my time to graphic design, because it was all that really interested me, and I wasn't getting that out of studying art, and they didn't offer graphic design as a subject at my school at the time. So I went to North Hertfordshire College and did a 2-year course, graphic design course, and then from there that allowed me to go to university, where I did an undergraduate graphic design and illustration course. But that doesn't necessarily mean that to get onto a graphic design course that you have to have a graphic design background. You can have a fine art background. You know, if you're really into photography, you can do that. That's still a great way. And anything creative, essentially, you know, there's no limitations, because it's like we mentioned earlier, graphic design is so broad. You know, you're always going to be in a different creative area. So like, I'm not an animator at all, but, you know, like I said, today I've been animating. You know, sometimes it might be something to do with photography. So I'd say genuinely any creative subject, so that is, you know, art, photography, fashion, even fashion design, that's a good kind of starting point to getting into the creative industry. So yeah,
okay.
I'd say creative subjects.
Martin, we'll talk about skills and qualities separately a little bit later, but in terms purely of qualifications, if you were going to be recruiting a graphic designer, would you expect them to have gone to university? Are there any particular subjects that you would like to see that they've done?
Well, I think a little bit differently, because I left school at 16. Graphic and product design was one of my favourite subjects. I'd left with an A back in when GCSEs first came out, so very long time ago. And then I actually went down the apprentice route. And went and studied graphic design and illustration at Stevenage College. So I was already working with a company actually producing the illustrations and graphics. So for me, I didn't go to university. So and I know the route is now we look at when we're receiving CVs, We're looking at BA honours in graphic design and so on, and we see they've gone through the college route and then university and so on. So we see a lot of CVs where people have actually gone to university, but it's actually not, you know, as Matt quite rightly said, if you haven't gone down the university route, that doesn't mean it's a closed door. So we would definitely look at people who have got, you know, if you're you've done gone and done a BTEC, you stayed on at A levels, you've done art, you've done fine art, and so on. If you're good and you've got a good, nice portfolio, we're happy to actually, you know, interview you and actually then consider you for that position. We don't rule out just because you haven't been to university.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a very clear statement.
Could I just,
now,
sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
just jump in there and just echo something that Martin said, which is something I found out when I was at university. Your portfolio is the main selling point when you go for jobs and stuff. So if you have not gone to university and you haven't studied graphic design, but you have got a really good portfolio, that's what's going to make you hireable.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to go to university and, you know, leave and say, you know, I got first in design. That's great, but ultimately your portfolio is going to be what makes you stand out. So throwing yourself into your work more is, yeah, making sure you've got a great portfolio.
Absolutely, Matthew. So I mean, we took on a couple of years back, took on a guy. He hadn't been to university, but his passion was design, and he showed us his portfolio that he was just doing at home, just playing around. That's what he showed us. And we took him on. His typography skills were fantastic. His layout skills were fantastic, and his eye for detail was fantastic. So we looked at it. We thought, okay, we'll take a punt on this guy. And see what he's like. He turned out to be one of our best designers, and eventually one of our best videographers and animators as well.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, let me just ask you, because some people watching this may not be familiar with a portfolio and what it is. You know, what age should someone start compiling a portfolio, and, you know, physically, what shape and size should it take? What should you put in there?
Portfolio is just like a collection of your best work, essentially. I started mine when I was in college, so I would have been at 16, and at that point, anything I did. So at one point I was really into photography, and I would take photographs, you know, like bands and local bands in the area. That was in my portfolio. If I found a weekend where I was just kind of drawing, or I was doing a bit of digital art, anything like that, and I was proud of it, and I thought this is good, put it in my portfolio. Literally anything like that. It just shows what breadth of skills you have. So if you could go, I don't know, to an interview and say, hey, here's my design work, but also I know how to use a camera, and here's some photography work, and I also know how to kind of stitch videos together, and show them that, it's just, you know, it looks a lot better. So if it's like I was saying earlier, like, you don't need to specifically be strict on one discipline. You don't need to be like, I'm going to be the best at typography because that's what's going to get me a job. If you're good at other things, just put it all together, put it in a portfolio, and, you know, and it doesn't even need to be a physical one. Some places, you know, if you can, there are a lot of online websites where you can upload your work. Instagram's a great one. Make a design specific account on Instagram and just put all of your work up there. Photography, video, design, whatever it is, it just it's great.
Yeah. So I think that's some really, really good advice there. I imagine lots of people watching this at the moment will be very familiar with some of those social media handles as well. So ways of digitally collecting your portfolio of evidence. Anya, I want to ask you, because I think your route into graphic design has come through marketing, which of course there's lots of synergies with. But just tell us a little bit about your route in.
Yeah, sure. So I studied marketing actually, and worked in marketing on a corporate side for 12 years. So that is actually how I found graphic design. So I would be the person giving a brief to a graphic designer, and then they would deliver the work to me, and we would create these wonderful campaigns and projects. And I always kind of secretly wished I want to be on the other side of that phone call. So I actually got a secondary degree later on in my career in graphic design to get a qualification. But I had been using the Creative Cloud software, so Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, for a long time, just in my marketing job, to also get the marketing work done. So, and just kind of following on from what Matt and Martin were saying earlier, there is so much a graphic designer can do. So you will never be the best at everything, and the important thing is to always develop, because there's so much technology and there's so much new stuff coming out all the time. And then if you're passionate about graphic design, like, you will always learn, you will always keep learning, the skills will always evolve. So there isn't kind of like a stopping point where it's like, okay, I've got this, so I can now move into graphic design. It's really something constantly learning on the job. And like Martin was saying, people give you weird and wonderful challenges every day, things you probably haven't done before. And just having the courage and the appetite to attack these challenges and get a good solution is really important.
Sure, thank you for that. We've spoken about, so going to university clearly isn't essential here if you want to make it as a graphic designer. But so lots of people watching this at the moment will be thinking about, well, you know, which GCSE should I do, or potentially what should I be doing A level? Should I be going to college? So if we're going to say that university isn't essential, I'm guessing that choice of A levels therefore isn't essential either. But from an employer's perspective, Martin, are there subjects that you would recommend someone do, because actually it would give them a really good grounding and understanding of what graphic design might look like as a career?
Yeah, I think I mean art definitely. For us, English is key, because you will be submitting designs that require typography, and the last thing you want to do is get a spelling mistake in there. I know we have spell checkers, but they do slip through, and if a customer finds a spelling mistake, yeah, it's not good. Or if it gets, especially if it gets printed with a spelling mistake, is not good. So I think English, graphic design, maths as well. If they do product design, technical, I don't know if they do technical drawing anymore. That's something that maybe that's covered under fine art. But when we look at the subjects, it's almost, we look at software skills as well, and do they have good IT skills? Have they been working in web? You know, they may have developed some IT courses that would be beneficial, because there are times when you actually need to go into web design, maybe a bit of coding. Previously we used to work in Flash, you know, we could be working in JavaScript now, or, you know, we're developing in Unity as well. So it's basically just finding out what you're into, really, I think, and taking and having that passion for what you do, you know. It's and applying that to your subject. And then you go from there, and then you can look at moving on. But as I say, it's not prerequisite that you have to have a degree to get into graphic design. But it's, you know, it's if you choose that path, then great. But it's yeah, the world's open, really.
Sure. Matt, I just want to talk about the degree you did. So you live in Letchworth. You chose to go to University of Hertfordshire, and I know you were still living at home to do that. So firstly, just tell us, what does that 3-year degree program at the University of Hertfordshire look like? What sort of modules were you studying?
So yeah, I chose to commute in because the university was local, and it was really ideal for me. So the first year, they put you into one big group of graphic designers and illustrators, because the course I did was graphic design and illustration, and they threw over, I think the first semester you're there, they throw a mix of briefs at you. So some might be photography focused, some might be illustration focused, and some might be design focused. And then at the end of that semester, I literally remember it, they gave you a slip of paper and they just said, do you want to study illustration or graphic design? And they would kind of be like, they'd give you a bit of insight into how you're working. Say, you know, you're more of a graphic designer, or, you know, you're more of an illustrator. We can kind of see you doing that. I went with graphic design against my tutor saying I was an illustrator, but you thought, no, I'm more interested in the graphic design side of things. So I did that. And then the second semester of the first year was just straight into, right, this is what, you know, you need to know in graphic design. So a lot of typography skills, and a lot of branding and, you know, generating ideas, which is really important being a graphic designer. You need to have, it's not all about making things look great, it's the idea behind them as well, and, you know, thinking about how far you can push that idea. So yeah, and then the second year, a lot of live briefs. So not to sound biased to the University of Hertfordshire, but what's great about the course at Herts is that they have amazing industry links. So the briefs I was working on in the second year were for like Burger King. We got a live brief from a marketing agency in London called Droga 5, who do huge amounts of work in, you know, advertising and marketing. And then yeah, screen printing. Yeah, the course was it gave you a lot of opportunity to do what you wanted to do. So if you were working on a project and you thought, you know, this would look great if I screen printed the posters, the facilities were there, so you were literally told, cool, crack on. If you want to do that and you want to explore that as an avenue, go and do that. But I'd say the main thing about which stands out to me on the university course was the live briefs, and, you know, the opportunities. Really, there was always opportunities to submit your work to you know, things going on outside of the university. So we would always do D&A debriefs, which is they're like a group who pull in people like Xbox, you know, all these big brands, Adidas, Burger King, you know, and they give briefs to university students, and, you know, you can win awards for it, and, you know, yeah, really interesting things. So I'd say a lot of opportunity to make that portfolio really stand out.
Sure, of course. And look, we always want to promote University of Hertfordshire because it's our home university. Many of you watching will really want to go to, you know, I think what we've discussed so far is that to have a good career in graphic design, you don't have to go to university, but of course there are lots of really good reasons for going to uni. Some of you might just really want to go out and fly your nest a little bit and go a little bit further afield than Hertfordshire. And of course there are plenty of universities in the country and internationally, in fact, that will offer graphic design or something similar. Most important thing is just really, you know, make sure that you have a look at the UCAS, make sure you have a look at the university prospectus and find out specifically what the course entails, and the particular entry requirements that they have for it. I can see there are lots of questions coming in, so if you do have any questions for Matthew, Martin, or for Anya, do get them in. I'm going to come on to them very, very shortly, the ones that we haven't covered already. Before I do that, I think I know the answer to this one already, but is there going to be a demand in the future, particularly in Hertfordshire, Martin, for graphic designers?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as discussed with you earlier, we've just hired 4 designers. So we've got a large project coming up. We are working with the Aerospace Technology Institute, and they are working with the UK government for producing all their documentation that they're going to be presenting to the document around zero carbon flight and fly zero, and basically reducing carbon emissions around in the future, and for now and for the next 10 years by 2030, and then obviously meeting government net zero by 2050. So it's already starting, and I don't ever see it letting up. So we have got documents, posters, leaflets, graphics, infographics, absolutely, you name it, we're being asked to create it, and I don't see it slowing up. But what I am seeing, as we've seen over the years, is a decline in printed material and more going digital, and everything going online. And then what's going to be the next thing? So, but with the advent of Creative Cloud, and you can now do your designs from home. Everyone says I'm a graphic designer, but I think when you get there and you're a professional doing it, you bring it to the next level, and there will always be a requirement for graphic design, because you look at, as Anya said right at the start, when you're looking for inspiration, you see what's out there. You look at magazines, you look at videos, you look online, you see what's already done. That the inspiration you're looking for is actually being created by a graphic designer in the first place. So it's always going to be there, and there's always going to be new ideas, and you can either apply your ideas around there and look for that inspiration, or you can actually invent the artwork yourself and so on. So it's always going to be out there, and you see it more and more as Matt mentioned with Instagram and so on. The social media is growing, and you just see it more and more now, and graphics around you see TV adverts, motion graphics, a lot of I can't see it stopping. It's I've been in it for years, and I think I'll be in it for many more years to come, put it that way.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. And then, Anya, my question to you is, just before we come on to the audience questions, is you've spoken about you went from a marketing background and have gone into graphic design. So if you're in graphic design, what are the other areas that you might go into? Where do your transferable skills most naturally take graphic designers to?
Yeah, so I think one really transferable skill is the listening and understanding customers. So as a graphic designer, you do really pay a lot of attention to clients and then what they need from you. So that is a soft skill that can be applied across all kinds of professions, even into sales, for example. But another skill that as a graphic designer you would gain that you can also transfer is to create a vision and bring others along on the journey to something. So because as a graphic designer, you'll be creating something from nothing, and you'll be able to share that vision, and that is a leadership skill in my opinion. So if you can do that, you can get into management, you can get into sales positions, marketing, or really anything where you need to convince people to go in a certain way and use the tools that you're familiar with and that you're good at as your tools to deliver that.
Sure. So look, it sounds like it's a really good trade to have. It's a really good skill set to have, and it can open up lots of other possibilities for you. So really what we're saying in conclusion to this section is graphic design is a great industry to go into. There's going to be plenty of demand for it, particularly by the time you guys are coming out of school and education. There's going to be plenty of jobs for you, and then there's plenty of options for you once you've got there. Right, I'm going to go on to the questions. I've had so many questions that have been submitted, so I'm going to get through as many of these as we can in the next 15 minutes or so to make sure we can round off by 5:30. So if I could ask you all to give your answers as concisely as possible. So firstly, I'm going to ask you this question, Matt. Is it bad that I didn't take graphic design as a GCSE option? Could I pick it up in A-level if I wanted to go down that career path?
Not bad at all that you didn't take it as a GCSE option, and it's like I said, like you can pick it up again. You don't there's no like set you need to do graphic design at this level to get to that level. It doesn't matter when you pick it up, and sure. You know, as long as you got the passion for it and you're interested in it, then that's all that matters. Don't let someone say like, no, you know, you need to be doing it here. Do it whenever you want.
Sure. Okay, no, that's really encouraging. I'm sure there's lots of people on here that maybe have already chosen A-levels or already chosen GCSEs and are wondering whether it's right for them. So the only caveat to that is some universities, if you want to go on to university and do a specific course, there may be a particular A-level that they will have wanted you to have done. But to actually get a career in it, I think what Matt's saying there is absolutely right. Anya, I'm going to ask you this question. What is the best app for graphic design, or what is your favourite?
So I personally use the Creative Cloud suite, and within that you find programs like Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, and many others. There's Adobe XD, which I use for web design. So there's a lot of tools, and I think that is the main go-to software for graphic designers. And you can get free trials as well. So you can get monthly free trials if you want to look around and have a little play. And there's loads and loads of tutorials online as well to give you a really quick intro how to use it. So yeah, that's that.
Sure. Okay. This is more of an admin question, but is it possible to watch this recording back? Yes, this session is being recorded. It will be available on our Hop channel, which I'll give you a link to by the time we close here. So anyone who you know would also benefit from watching this, they will be able to. If you just want to watch it back and get some more detail, then you can do. Who am I going to ask this question to? I'm going to ask you this question, Anya, again. I'm going to go back to you for this one, but if Martin or Matt have got to answer this one. I'm interested in pursuing a career in interior design, to be specific. What subjects are sought after by universities that link to that career path that you would recommend taking for A-levels? As I asked that question, I thought it's probably unfair to ask you that one, Anya.
Yes, so I did my education in Germany, so I'm going to defer to Matt, I think, for that one. But I do think there are interior design courses, and I do kind of think it's a little bit similar to the graphic design question, that if you're really passionate about that and that is your bag, you will probably pick up some creative subjects in your education and then kind of like progress that into an interior design lane. But yeah, maybe somebody else has some more details on that.
Sure. Well, I'm thinking, Matt, you may well have friends or peers who have gone into interior design subsequently. Anything you can add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, if you're looking at doing interior design, the main rule with anything, if you're looking at doing that, let's say at university or on a course level, is to look up the requirements. So look at kind of what subjects you need to study. I would say, you know, create, again, just kind of, you know, things like fine art or even graphic design. Yeah, that can definitely feed into a career in interior design, or even things like product design. You know, it all sits in the same family, in my opinion. You know, I've got friends who studied interior design and at university level, and they started from, you know, just having a really big passion for art, and then they've focused that into interior design, and yeah, it's worked out really well for them.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Martin, I'm going to ask you this question. What would you recommend to improve graphical skills to improve your portfolio?
Practice. I think as Anya said, there's software out there that are available that are free. You can just basically have a look at what is around, as Anya mentioned at the start. Again, your magazines, just take inspiration from other areas, and either try and apply. You can either try and apply that style yourself, or actually look at adapting that for something that how you think would look better. But it's just practice. It's get hold of the software if you can, and just play with it. And the Creative Cloud is fantastic. It's everything links to each other. If you make an update in Photoshop or Illustrator, it will link through into InDesign. You can then take everything you built in Illustrator, you can bring that through into After Effects. There's so much you can do. Go online. YouTube is a great resource. I still go on YouTube when there's something I don't know in After Effects. I go on YouTube and go and find out how to do it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to ask Matt this one. What sciences would be best to take for GCSE to become a graphic designer? So, do you think there's any crossover from any from many science subjects?
I'm not sure, actually. I think I would just say, if you're interested in graphic design, I think I said it in answer to my previous question, but make sure that you look at, you know, requirements on these courses and see what you need to take. I think a lot of them will be art based, but I think if, you know, having a background, if you're interested in science, that, you know, that's something you could probably carry over into graphic design. You know, be influenced by things from, you know, the science world, and, you know, things like that you can bring into that. So yeah, but I'd say the main rule is just anything you're going to apply for, check what they would require from you, and also look at the resources that they have available. And yeah, I hope that helps.
Okay, thanks. Well, obviously, you have to do science at GCSE. You're going to get at least a double award, and probably having as many options as possible is never a bad thing. Anya, I'm going to ask you this question as a prospective employer, because I know you're looking to grow the business and you will be looking to recruit people in the not too distant future. So this is slightly hypothetical, but I'm sure you give me a good answer to this one. What would attract you more, a creative eye or analysis of trends, or eye for detail of the brief?
Oh gosh,
Really good question.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one, because it's really hard to pick, because all of these are quite important. And I'm going to deflect a little bit from the answer, actually, because I'm going to say, if somebody has the right attitude towards the job and towards, you know, being passionate about it and wanting to do it, even if you don't have some of these skills, you will learn it and you will pick it up on the way. So I think a good eye is really important to kind of like have a good understanding of what looks good. But then again, it's very subjective. What I think looks good might not be what Martin thinks looks good. So analytical skills is really important. Even in graphic design, you're analyzing the market. Like when you're creating an asset, you don't want to bring something to your client that is kind of old-fashioned. So there's new techniques that are out there. So you need to be on top of these things. And I forgot the third one now, but
yeah, following the brief, having creative eye, and being able to analyze and follow trends.
Following the brief is also very important, but again, there are briefs where you might want to pop in some suggestions on the way to just spice it up a little bit. It's a balance of things, and you will learn all of this. All of these would be important to me, but to me personally, most important is a positive can-do attitude towards the job, and then you will learn everything anyways.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I think communication. I think you mentioned it. Communication with your customer is key, because and don't ever be afraid to sort of speak up. If you've got a really good idea and you join a company that has senior designers and so on, I always tell our young designers that come in, don't sit there quiet. And if you've got a really good idea, don't sit there and sit on it and think, oh, I won't mention because I'm shy. Say it, because that's what we need. We want new ideas. It could be that we've missed something, but good communication skills is key for us, and we always encourage new ideas, and we want people to actually share those ideas, because you'll never be shouted down, because we want those ideas. We want to actually, you know, say it could be fantastic, could be the next new brand. You know, that's what we look for.
Sure. Another question, this is specifically for you, Martin. How high is the competition, i.e. how many applicants would you have for job vacancies that were of a standard where you would hire them?
So we have recently hired, as I mentioned earlier, we've just hired 4 designers, and we're looking for different skill sets around. If you've got a bit of an all-round skill set, whether you can do video, animation, maybe a bit of 3D, perfect. But we're looking for InDesign skills, Photoshop, and so on. But we probably had around about 80 applicants, something like that, and we can quite easily bring those down as for what we look at. But you know, I don't get to see every CV. It goes through our HR department, and they know what I'm looking for. But the competitions, I think, definitely, if you're putting your CV out there, it's got to, you know, make sure it's correct, technically correct. You know, make sure it stands out, and then as we mentioned earlier, and Matt mentioned portfolio. If you've got a portfolio, stick a link on it, and that will get you through, or can get you through the door on that alone. If your portfolio is great, then and your CV is not so great, you know, I would interview you if your portfolio is great.
Sure. Okay, fine. I'm going to try and rattle through these questions as quickly as I can. No. You have a very good answer there. Matt, can you use photography to create a piece of graphic design?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah. Photography, yeah, you're always going to be working on briefs that you know, might require you to source images, and you know, so photography, it goes hand in hand with like things like InDesign and publication and print design and things like that. But yeah, I'll be quick about this, but like you might get a brief, or you, in your own time, you might just enjoy, you know, taking photographs. You know, there's nothing that says you can't then take those photos and put them on InDesign and, you know, lay them out and create your own, you know, piece of print or publication. You know, yeah, goes hand in hand. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. The question again is probably a short answer here, Matt. How long would a university course take to complete? Yours was a 3-year. I'm guessing most of them are 3 years.
The majority of them are 3 years. Some of them might be 4 with that optional year to go and study abroad, or go and work in the industry and get a bit of experience. But yeah, they're usually 3 years, but three very good, fun, enjoyable years.
Good. Okay. Another university question here. We're obviously flying the flag for the University of Hertfordshire, but based on your experiences and knowledge and conversations with others, what are the other best universities to go to for graphic design? Is there a real hub? Is there one particular one that really specialises?
So yeah, University of Hertfordshire is one of them. A lot of London-based unis. There are so many London-based universities. UAL, I'd say. Portsmouth do a really good design course. Yeah, I think the courses vary where you go, but I'd say London-based universities are definitely where it's going to be constantly up to date with what's going on in the industry.
Yeah. Loughborough is one of the unis that we've had a couple of designers come from, and the standard of their work has been fantastic. Yeah, Loughborough has been a good one for us.
Yeah,
as well as the University of Hertfordshire, obviously.
University of Hertfordshire, of course. I'm going to try and find a university. I'm going to do textiles for A levels as I can't continue graphics. Could I still go to graphics in uni? I think we've probably answered that, Matt. I'm guessing the answer is yes, and probably textiles is going to give you some good understanding as a creative subject. Yeah,
textiles. Yeah, if you can, you can definitely find ways to bring that into your graphic design, the graphic design world. Yeah, it's definitely relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And say if a school doesn't offer an A level in graphic design, we're thinking anything art related, fine arts is always going to be good.
Yeah, anything art related. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Automotive design, any A levels you think would be good for that? I'm thinking design technology maybe.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we look at. As I say, anything like that goes into 3D technology and so on. So yeah, we look at those as well.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Other good questions. Universities down south. I think you said Portsmouth is a really good one. We asked about using photography in your portfolio. What about using music? Is that something you see very often?
Yes, in videos. Yeah, when we're asked to produce videos all the time, you need background music, and sometimes the music's got to fit the video, and it's got to align. If the music drops when something happens in the video, it's like creating cinematic trailers. It's really fun to work on. They're great.
Sure. Okay. I mean, there's a few more questions about portfolios here, and we've spoken about some, I guess, some slightly more left field things, including music in there and photography. In your opinion, Anya, does a really good portfolio have a really good range of different content within it, or do you think it's absolutely fine just to stick to more traditional methods?
Well, I think it's kind of a reflection of who you are as a designer. So it should be kind of like, there's no rules. It can be anything that you think works for you and what you've produced and what you've created. And so you don't have to fit into a template. It doesn't need to be an A4 document. It could be anything you want to make it, like I said before, an Instagram page. You can have a website that's your portfolio. You can have lots of music, videos, anything you like, really. It is a reflection of yourself and your art, and needs to bring that across.
Sure. Would you agree with that, Matt? I mean, just be yourself.
Yeah. It's the main thing I'd say. Be yourself. Put put all of the work you're proud of and the work that you really support and you're really proud of into that, and it will reflect you. Another thing as well is they're not just looking at the portfolio; they're looking at you as an individual. So if you can show your passion and you can talk about your projects with confidence and you can really push those ideas towards them, then yeah.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that we've spoken about doing things like adding music in there. And I guess if that's not your cup of tea, if that's not something you're comfortable with, I mean, I guess the advice would be don't shoehorn it in there for the sake of it, because you're then not being true to yourself, are you? And you're setting yourself up on you can't follow through with. Right, some really good technical questions here. Do you have any tips for finding inspiration when you have artistic blocks, Anya?
Yes, Pinterest. So I spend a lot of time on Pinterest when I'm trying to get inspiration, and also mood boards. So in case people don't know what there is, mood boards is when you collect ideas and from some other sources that other people have produced, and you get in the mood of what you think might be right for the project you're working on. And sometimes it can seem like a little bit of a waste of time, but it really is not. It's really a good tool to get your own creative juices flowing and to get in the groove for what you're trying to achieve for your project.
Yeah. Okay. Any other tips, Martin, of Matt, for creative block? I'm sure that's something that all of you suffer from time to time.
Absolutely, Matt. I'll let you go.
Cheers, thank you. Social media is huge at the moment. So if you're following the right accounts, or if you're just exploring and using hashtags to look at, there's mountains of work out there, which I find really inspiring. Another one is there's a website called It's Nice That, which is basically anything creative that's going on. It's flung onto that website, and you can read about the designers who have done that, and there's always fresh new work on there. And it's just it's nice to take a break and go and have a look on there and then see what other people are doing, and it can spark some ideas. So yeah,
sure.
Definitely, yeah, agree. I think for us, I think we look at I think as Anya said, Pinterest and so on, but Shutterstock is very good, because it's not just illustrations. You've got illustrations, graphics, you've got some designs, layouts. Everything is in there, and you can download scamps from there, just little snippets, and actually if you and apply your design to it. So there is millions of resources there to have a look at.
Okay, thank you. Last couple, I can actually see the bottom of my screen now. How much have apps like Canva, etc., negatively affected business opportunities for graphic designers? That's a good question, Martin, as an employer.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. That's not one I've actually come about with, but I saw Anya put her hand up, so that's not one we've actually come across in terms of limitations.
Anya.
Yeah, so Canva, because I run my own business and I work with a lot of small companies who don't have an in-house graphic designer. There's a lot of small companies who are trying to use Canva because it is a really great tool. So you can make infographics, presentations, brochures, literally at the click of a button. But where it reaches its limits is in the unique design and in individuality. So there's a lot of limitations what you can do on Canva. So if somebody doesn't really care about that it's on brand, or it's really reflecting what the business wants to do, and they just need something quick, they would probably go and use Canva. But I think any business who is a little bit more serious about their brand and that has a little bit more individual standards, they would probably find that Canva would not meet their needs.
Yeah, sure. I was just saying, what a great question that was as well. That's some really good industry knowledge. That's the sort of question that if you were to go to an interview, you often get asked at the end, do you have any questions for us or any discussion points? To bring up something like that in such an articulate way, and I will name check you. So it's Freya who asked that question. I might give her surname as well, or the school she goes to. But a really, really fantastic question. So,
and
thank you.
Sorry, just a final one. And I have actually also recommended it to clients when they have a really, really tiny business. I do think it's a fantastic tool. It's free as well. It's just not right for everyone, but it is a great tool.
Sure. Okay. Can I use Procreate to make graphic design? Matt's nodding his head very enthusiastically. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't anymore, but I had an iPad for a while and I was using Procreate, and it's great. Really helps. It's also it works well with other industry standard programs, so you can draw something and then you can fling that onto Photoshop and Illustrator, and then you can kind of but Procreate's another, I'd say, a very good software program to use. Yeah.
Thumbs up from Matt. Last couple of questions then, and we'll wrap up. I want to specifically get into animation. Would doing graphic design help, Martin?
I think graphic design can help. If you're doing animation, it could be illustration, especially with motion graphics, and it depends which. Are we looking at 2D animations or 3D animation? So they're totally different skill sets, but you know, you can use Illustrator, create your graphics, and then move into Adobe Animate and go from there. Or if you're competent with 3D models, yeah, go down the 3D model route with 3ds Max. We're using Unreal and Unity. So yeah, it depends what kind of animation.
Okay.
But yeah, graphic design can help.
Yes, for sure. This is a really good. I'm going to have to ask Martin this one as well. Is it true that employers would employ you if you know how to use certain softwares?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Okay. And you're saying for you as well. Would that really help if someone used a specific one?
It's probably one of these tick in the boxes, like almost like a little bit of a prerequisite that perhaps at least the Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign at least experience, and perhaps at least 2 of them would get you through the door.
Absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I think yeah, as Annie said, it's Adobe Creative Cloud. If you're familiar with that and proficient in that, then that is a tick in the box. Any software knowledge is great. So, and that's what we would look for that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then, well, the last question I'm going to ask, I'm very unfairly, I'm going to ask Martin this question, but it's, what is the entry level salary likely to be, please?
Oh, okay.
Of course, lots of variables for this one, so there's no.
There is. So it depends what location you are in the country. If you're going into London, then it will be higher. But you have to take into consideration that you may have to pay your own travel to get in there. But we predominantly start around at graduate level around about the 20 to 21,000 mark, and then we move up the scale. It just depends on how much experience you have, but around about your sort of junior designers can be up to £25,000. Then you move up the scale towards £30,000 for middleweight, and then you go up into the 30s and 40s around for when you become a senior designer. So it can be quite a nice. It's a nice career choice and can be well paid.
Sure. I'm looking on the HOT website at the moment, which includes a careers directory. So this is on a national level. The average salary for a graphic designer in the UK is 31,200. That's obviously not an entry level salary. That's that's something there. And then final question, and I suppose it's just a good way of having a bit of a recap as well. So the question is, what are some job examples? Now, Matt, is your job title graphic designer, or is it more specific than that?
My job title is graphic designer. It was when I started junior graphic designer, but I'm now a graphic designer now. Sorry, my mind's gone blank. Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah. What are some examples of job titles? So would you say the majority of graphic designers are called graphic designers, or are there perhaps nuanced versions of that title?
Yeah, so when you graduate level, you'd probably you can go into an art working job, or you could go into a junior designer job, and then from there you kind of go junior designer, graphic designer, or midweight. Some companies might call you a creative, and then you can go up to all the way from art director to creative director. I often see it as the more you progress, you'll probably learn skills about managing clients and taking a bit of a hands-off approach, and but you will probably always end up still working with the software. But yeah.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Right then, I'm very conscious that we've run over and people have probably got dinners ready and perhaps parents calling them from downstairs to tell them to get off the computer. So just in conclusion, I'm going to share with you a couple of websites that you might want to go and have a look at off the back of this webinar if you want to explore more about being a graphic designer. As I'm doing that, in that question tab, and you've asked so many fantastic questions, if you've got any feedback for us, or there's been any ways that this session's been particularly useful for you, if you could type it in there now, that's really useful. Again, that's only going to be visible to us. It's not going to be visible to everyone. Some of the sites that we have on here, Anya, do you want to explain the 2 that you submitted through to me there?
Yeah, so I'll just talk about the blue one. It's called Behance. And it's basically a design community. And a lot of the guys, they're using Adobe Creative Cloud, which is the other link here. So if you go to Adobe, you can see all the softwares in Creative Cloud. But Behance is particularly great because they will do very short training. So they'll do like 20-minute snippets of how to design a logo, how to design a flyer, little how-to things. So it's really great to get just an intro, and they'll do it specifically to a software. So they'll run a course on Illustrator, they'll do one on Photoshop, they'll do one on InDesign. So that's a really good one to see what you can do with these programs and see what the community is working on as well.
Sure. Okay. I've got the lights are going off, which is probably an indication that it's time to wrap up the webinar. So finally, then, let me just put you onto the final slide so you can see it. All we want to recommend that you do from now is to have a look at the HOP website. The QR code that you can see in the top corner of that screen there will take you directly to the page where all of our previous webinars are stored. So we have done one on marketing, which there's some similarities. We've done one on games design as well, architecture, possibly there's going to be some crossover as well, so do have a look at those. Thank you so much to all of you in the audience that have taken part today and have joined this webinar and have submitted your questions, which have been really, really fantastic. But of course, thanks to our wonderful panelists today, so to Anya, to Matt and to Martin, thank you so much for giving up your time this afternoon in preparation for this session. And best of luck to all of you in your future careers in graphic design. I'm sure there's going to be many of you working in Hertfordshire in the years to come. So thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.